All right, what up, folks? This should be an interesting live stream. Am I live? Can you guys hear me or not? I can't tell. Hold on. Oh, we're live. What is up, everyone? Look, to be very honest with y'all, I feel like I've been kind of lacking, not sharing my thoughts with what I think is going on in the market. And so I want to kind of make up for it. I kind of want to make up for some of my absence and my lack of sharing of alpha, and make a little live stream for y'all talking about Bitcoin price predictions, where I think the bottom could be, if there's a local bottom, things with Hex, news going on with Celsius, kind of my thoughts with the market, all that good stuff. Folks, we got Bufo in the house. What is up, man? It's actually genuinely very nice to see you, man. Good to always see you. Some familiar faces. Bufo saying, why nobody talking about 300 WMA? Everyone focused on the 200 weighted moving average. That's a good question. I haven't really taken a look at the 300 MA, but the reason weekly moving average, the reason why people talk a lot about the 200 weekly moving average, and that's what I want to talk about here, is because it has historically been somewhat of a bedrock of support for Bitcoin, and we are testing it right now. So, folks, I want a couple people trickle in here. Let me tweet this out, and then we'll get going here. In the meanwhile, let me know if that music is too much, or if you guys can even hear that. Yeah, good to see you, man. Texas, what up? Cochino, what up? All right. And folks, also, by the way, just while I'm tweeting out a little bit of housekeeping news as well, I've been kind of lobbying Messin. Messin's not here with us today. He is unfortunately busy being dehydrated somewhere, but he sends his best wishes. But I've been lobbying Messin to kind of do a weekly live stream consistently because, I mean, if you guys have been following the channel, I'm sure you guys have noticed we have not been at all consistent. So we want to try to start taking steps towards fixing that. So one of the things we want to do is have kind of a weekly live stream. Sometimes make it like a panel show, bring on guests, and so we're aiming for this Wednesday to be kind of a panel show. We have a couple people in mind we want to reach out to just for the first one. I won't mention them here just because I haven't reached out to them yet, but just for y'all, something to look forward to this Wednesday. So, folks, before I get going here, I just want to say, I kind of took a little bit of a break from the market. I haven't looked at the market in a couple of weeks. I put all my money into Celsius. Hopefully, nothing has happened. I don't know if anyone has if anyone's kind of heard some news. I thought I heard something going on with Celsius. I put absolutely all my funds in there, so I hope everything's okay. Maybe we can take a look during the stream. Music is too much. All right, yeah, fuck the music, guys. Enough of that. All right, let's get this live stream going. All right, links are sent out. Mostly good enough. All right, let's start. So, folks, look, welcome to another A Million or the Moon live stream. Like I said, it's been a minute since I talked to y'all. So, I want to share my thoughts on what I think is going on with this market, with this bear market, how long I think it could last, where potential bottoms could be, talk about PulseChain, talk about Hex, talk about some of the recent news with Celsius. So, why don't we, in fact, start off with that? Or, folks, look, there's some crazy ass news here. And I was listening to the Token Metrics live stream this morning, and I think Bill, who's their technical analyst, put it well, where we're seeing 2008 level bank collapses happening all throughout crypto. I mean, I think Tron stablecoin just depegged. Celsius recently put up this news. I believe this was what, yesterday, June 12th? Yeah, just yesterday, saying we're pausing all withdrawals, swaps, and transfers. This is we also have Carl from the Moon saying, kind of pointing out how Celsius advertises you can access your coins whenever you want. Obviously not. A lot of people are livid. You can see one person over here saying, I have USDC in my account that I want to use to repay my loan that has a margin call right now, but I can't even repay the damn loan because of the transfer freeze. That's ridiculous. So this freeze is impacting people. If people have loans out, if they're in danger of being liquidated, if they can't top up their funds, we have not heard any word from Celsius or Alex Mashinsky other than this tweet as to how these people are going to be treated. It's a massive open question. This is very, very, very terrible news. I mean, folks, Celsius was essentially a crypto bank, and it's perhaps in the midst of collapsing here. I mean, a lot of people are sharing their stories of how they're essentially getting fucked by this, how this is a massive rug pull. And of course, we have a lot of Hexicans sharing how Richard was warning people. Richard Hart, the founder of Hex, was warning people to not get into Celsius. You're basically, picking up pennies in front of freight trains. Like, sure, you might earn 1, 2, 5, 10%, but if they lose all your funds, if you can't move your funds, what's the point of making 5% if you lose everything, right? So that's the danger with centralized entities. And folks, like, I find it so goddamn hilarious. By the way, everyone, if you like the live stream, like, subscribe, also share. If you share and you like the live stream, it really helps out. Really appreciate it if you guys take a second to do that as well. But folks, look, I find it so hilarious that a lot of crypto YouTubers are just waking up to the fact that these centralized entities are extremely high risk. And in fact, I don't have an article in front of me to corroborate this, but I heard that apparently Celsius was taking out loans using users' deposits as collateral, and then when people start withdrawing all their funds all at once, well, then they can't meet their loan limits, and so that's it's being theorized that that's one of the reasons why Celsius has paused all these withdrawals, any swaps, because they've literally over collateralized, used users' funds as collateral, which is insane. It's not their crypto, and they can't pay back their loans. So that's one of the reasons that's being rumored as to why Celsius has done this. And so I just also want to share a clip. I watched Bitboy Crypto today very recently, and there's this one YouTuber, Crypto Keeper over here. I'm not too familiar with this guy, but I just want to play this clip briefly here. Oh, shit, you guys can't hear this, can you? Because he was saying some fucking hilarious shit. Give me 1 second. I should be able to figure out how to do this. Share tab audio. Okay, you guys let me know if you can hear this.
Well,
let me know in the comments if you can hear this.
Some fine print, and it was with Celsius as well, and it basically said, "Hey, we reserve the right to be able to freeze these funds," and that's scary.
Can you guys hear that?
That's scary. So basically, whatever APR, APY you were expecting to get, well, you sure better not need to get funds out right now, because you literally are stuck.
4 to 5 people watching. Anyone? Can you hear this?
What will happen is everyone will look back at this. They will look back at Terra and say, ooh, I'm not so sure about that. So I think financially it's going to be really hard until we get I'd like to say a fully decentralized, product that's able to do, all of the things that we're asking for.
So folks, look, buddy over here is just saying like, oh, I wish we had a fully decentralized product that was able to pay a yield, pay out an interest rate, kind of like Celsius. The whole point of Celsius is where it's this kind of platform, it's this middleman that facilitates loans, and they take a portion of the interest they earn from the loans, and that's how they pay the staking rewards. So essentially a platform which you can stake and earn rewards. But it was completely centralized and apparently completely not able to keep itself going long term. And so we have Buddy over here saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had a decentralized product that paid yield? You know what, man? Crypto Keeper, I completely agree with you. That would be nice, which is exactly what Hex goddamn is. It's a immutable product that pays a yield that is also not decorrelated. It is completely not decorrelated from the rest of the market, and is currently short term, you know, acting quite terribly. So, folks, look, something I want to do as well. I didn't have this in the title, and I don't want to change the topic too much, but I did want to do some kind of live stream where I literally review my biggest mistakes over the last cycle, both in approach, execution, strategy, my how I view the markets, how I evolve, lessons learned. And part of that is understanding the importance of narratives. And one huge narrative with Hex for a very long time was, it was touted that it's decorrelated, from the rest of the market. And sure, to a small extent that is true. Hex would pump at certain times when the rest of the market was down, but overall Hex pumps in the macro context of a bull market, and overall Hex dumps in the macro context of a bear market. So I think that was a very, very strongly held narrative throughout the Hex community, throughout Hex YouTubers. Believe me, guys, I was there. I watched a lot of Hex streamers. Everyone was drinking that, the juice. We're decorrelated. We're not decorrelated, boys. We're extremely correlated from the rest of the market. So I don't want to get too distracted here, but I did want to share. Oh shit! I wasn't even sharing my screen with y'all looking at Hex. Anyways, I did want to share kind of this little clip here from BitBoy's live stream that I just found this super funny because they were realizing, oh hey, we need
the reality is these all have
we need a decentralized product that pays yield. Yeah, no shit.
And those
that's exactly what Hex
laid out in front of you.
Anyways, so BitBoy Crypto and his guys over there are just now starting to wake up to the fact that we need a decentralized option that pays out yield. Welcome to Hex. You're a couple years late, but welcome aboard. So what are you guys saying here in the comments? 10K ETH, LOL. Still want to see you shave your head on live stream. Yeah. So one of the things I messed up on that I was completely wrong about is for a long time I said we're gonna reach $10,000 Ethereum. I was saying that. When was I saying that? I've been saying that around 2020, early 2021. I was saying that, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I mean, guys, like again, that live stream where we talk about lessons learned and a lot of the failed narratives. I really want to do that live stream because it's so important to review your past behavior in order to try and improve upon it for the next run, because we're gonna have another bull run come 2024, 2025. And so I really personally, for the sake of me and you guys, want to make sure that I learn from my failures. And part of that was listening to particular narratives. Like, everyone was saying, there wasn't a single YouTuber back in early 2020 when the bull market was starting who wasn't saying, oh, we're going to see a Bitcoin in the hundreds of thousands, $200,000, $300,000 range. BitBoy Crypto, everyone was saying 300,000, 200,000. No one. There was like one or two. There was obviously outliers, but the vast majority of the market felt that we're going to see a Bitcoin in the several hundreds of thousands. That was obviously wrong. And so one of the lessons I take from that is, it's important to listen to the market and what the market is telling you, regardless of narratives. You can use narratives and theories to help perhaps guide you, but you ultimately need to listen to the market. If the market is showing you it's extremely overbought, it's exhausted, we're starting to lose particular support levels, we're starting to lose the parabolic curve, fuck the narrative. You get out. And so again, I'm not sharing my screen here, so why don't I take a second to do that? Give me 1 second here, folks, because I got a couple things I want to talk about. So yeah, look, guys, centralized entities. We got Binance temporarily pausing withdrawals. We have Celsius pausing withdrawals, swaps, anything for who knows how long. So this is the danger with centralized entities, and this really hammers home kind of one of the reasons why I love Hex so much is because it fulfills the role that a lot of people are looking for. A mechanism to pay you yield, to pay you an interest, but it's immutable and it's decentralized and it doesn't rely on middlemen. It's all smart contract. But let's see what you guys are saying in the comments. I see KR in the house. What up, man? Crypto Hines. What up? What up? Mixed Crypto Arts. Cheers for sharing. Yeah, thank you, man. Motley Investor. What up, bro? Good to see you, man. And Bufo, by the way, Bufo, I did say that I would shave my head if ETH didn't go to 10K, and I did in fact shave my head. I got a bald fade. Not only did I get a bald fade, but I made a video where I got a razor and I shaved a portion of my head. So I did 100% follow through on my on my promise to shave my head if I was wrong about 10K ETH. Yeah, what else you guys saying here? Right back at you, man. Richard Hart was not saying that. Crypto Gaming, what was Richard Hart not saying? You can clarify. All right, so I want to take a second here to also talk about Bitcoin, folks, where we could be falling, kind of my timeline predictions, price predictions, that kind of thing. So, look, before this live stream, I actually got off the phone with Messin, and I was kind of, we were having a version of a conversation we've been having for the last 2 years, which is we were discussing the importance of not only just labeling crypto as cyclical and whether or not that's an accurate way of analyzing these markets and or a helpful or useful way of analyzing these markets. Messin likes to point out that these markets are largely driven by macro factors, and while that is true, I would maintain the argument that the crypto markets are largely macro cyclical and can be somewhat predictable due to the largest driving force in this market currently being and also likely to continue being a large force, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin halvings. Therefore, I think there is actually a great deal of predictability on a macro long time frame, where every 4 years we have a Bitcoin halving, leads to supply shock, which leads to a period of euphoria, which is ultimately unsustainable, and then a crash, and then rinse and repeat, because we have this halving every 4 years. So I do think that crypto is ultimately cyclical, and it's also useful to analyze it in that kind of way. So, folks, bottom line is, historically speaking, from the top of the latest bull cycle to the bottom, it is basically taken roughly a year. Wait, actually, in this case, I have this wrong. Sorry. Roughly a year. All right, sometimes a little bit over a year, sometimes slightly under. But basically, roughly a year, folks. I mean, I even tweeted out a video of Richard Hart saying it was like 50 weeks, which is, right about a year. And so if we take, the latest Bitcoin cycle top, which is by the all-time high. I don't know why anyone does it from the 65 or 64K top. No, folks, you do the cycle top by the all-time high, which is the 69,000. So from 69,000, 50 weeks later, roughly 390 days, that brings us to kind of December, early, late October, November, December, around that region. All right, folks. So look, I would suspect kind of a macro bottoming to happen late third quarter, fourth quarter this year. So late October, November, December. That's likely when we're going to see a macro cycle bottom for Bitcoin, because historically speaking, from the all-time high to the all-time low, it's been roughly a year, sometimes a little bit over a year as well. Now, with that being said, I also want to point out something very kind of relevant that I think, Bufo, you brought up during the beginning of the live stream as well, which is the 200-week simple moving average, which has historically kind of been a bedrock of support for Bitcoin. We're sure we've wicked below, but it has been, historically speaking, a very relevant support level for Bitcoin. Something else to mention here is that, historically speaking, Bitcoin, the bottom of the Bitcoin bear market has never gone below the previous all-time high, except for kind of, the 2014 cycle, which we went, but we dipped below just by wick basis. So for Bitcoin to spend any kind of time below 20K, 19K here, would kind of be unprecedented, in my opinion. And also, this bull market was underwhelming. We had significantly more diminishing returns in the previous cycle. So some people argue that 23K, and I even tweeted something out similar like this, where I argue that 23K, there's an argument to be made that it could be some kind of a bottom, perhaps maybe a local bottom, for a couple of reasons. The bull market was not as euphoric as people thought. A lot of people were predicting Bitcoin at several hundreds of thousands. So maybe the bear market's not as bad. We're on the 200-week simple moving average, historically bedrock of support. Also, looking at the weekly RSI for Bitcoin, Every single time we've dipped into the oversold region on the weekly RSI has been the cycle bottom, historically speaking. Now we do have 2 data points, and that's not a lot. But just because we don't have many data points does not mean that we should completely ignore these data points, because it is not uncanny. It is not irrelevant, in my opinion. Because Messin argues, when we talk about cycles, there's not enough data points to really give a lot of credence to this cycle theory, but I think these few data points are powerful enough that they ought to be considered, even though they're not the end all be all. Point being, folks, look, oversold weekly RSI, cycle bottom. Oversold weekly RSI, cycle bottom. And we have now officially hit the oversold region on the weekly RSI. And is this a cycle bottom? I don't know, folks. In fact, I would honestly lean towards this not being a cycle bottom, but perhaps this could be a local bottom, given that we're in this historically relevant oversold period. We're now in the 200-week simple moving average here. So something I could imagine being totally possible is perhaps we have a bit of a consolidation here, maybe even go up to retest 30,000, 31,000. Maybe if we pull up the VPVR here, we can see how we'd likely find rejection there, because I'm betting there's a lot of volume being built up in those regions. So we're likely to see rejection there. If I expand this here, give me a second, bro size. Let's put that 600. Okay, so if we zoom in a bit here, maybe move log. Yeah, we can see that right here at about 31,000, a lot of volume being built up in these regions. So if this is indeed a local bottom, then perhaps we can go back up to retest, around 30,000, 31,000, and then I'd imagine us getting rejected. And that's when those kind of lower levels start to make sense. So to kind of also give you guys a bit more kind of tangible things to look out here for, specific levels I'm looking out for in terms of price targets for Bitcoin is, I could see the case for kind of 23K right here being a local bottom, or perhaps we see a little bit of consolidation, maybe a dead cat bounce before we see kind of further moves to the downside. But I would imagine support coming in at the previous all-time highs around 19,000, a little bit of sideways price action right there. But should that fail, where would Bitcoin ultimately bottom out, in my opinion? Well, I think there's a case to be made for about 11,500 to 12,000 to about $13,000. A lot of sideways moving price action there. That would be an 83% drop from all-time highs, which would kind of coincide with the kind of drops we've seen historically speaking. 85% corrections have been in the playbook before. And so, an 83% correction sitting on support, that kind of would be a buy zone for me if I were interested in buying Bitcoin. And I'm definitely not interested in buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a stupid investment in my opinion. But point being, should we reach these levels, is that guaranteed to be a cycle bottom? No. But what being at these levels signify, in my opinion, is that we've reached an inflection point where we're now very, very so much oversold, where the risk starts to greatly diminish and the reward starts to greatly increase once you start accumulating either Bitcoin or altcoins at around these levels. Because while of course we could drop further at these points, 85% correction around there have historically been all-time lows for Bitcoin. Then you start to have some reasons to think that we could be near a bottom. Also, if we get Bitcoin 11K anywhere to 13K, 15K at around the end of this year, then those two factors would lead me to believe that could be a cycle bottom. If we're at the teens, the mid to low teens, anywhere near November, December, then in my opinion, that's when I would feel comfortable really kind of putting my money into the market. And also if the Fed starts to stop raising interest rates, and if they start to get more dovish and start printing money again, and if you start to see quantitative easing late this year, early next year, that would also be a sign that the macro markets are ready to reverse. And so while I could continue here on with my monologue, I kind of want to check in with y'all in the comments, see what you guys are saying, if I'm boring y'all to death. Okay. Wow. Okay. Lots of comments here. So Texas Dalton saying, thinking the same. Motley saying, if we break through 19.5 range on Bitcoin. I think Richard's 11K BTC call comes into play. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And man, does Richard deserve so much more goddamn credit than he gets? And look, Richard doesn't do himself any favors, because with his recent kind of marketing campaign that Richard has with kind of his outrage marketing, it's very practical. He gets a lot of attention, but he also turns a lot of people off. And so, because he's kind of seen to be abrasive, people aren't so willing to give him credit where credit is due. Because I mean, guys, Richard was one of the biggest influencers calling the Bitcoin top when everyone else was saying we're going to 200K. Richard would call the top. And not only did he call the top, he was also calling realistic, bottom price predictions back when everyone was saying he was completely crazy and everyone was chanting 200K Bitcoin, including myself. I mean, in these levels back in November over here, I mean, I was hopeful. I ultimately started turning bearish once we lost the 50-day SMA over here. But I'm not going to lie, folks, even though I was bearish, I didn't listen to myself, and I held out hope. And even though I was right for a period, ultimately speaking, we did not go on to that 100K plus Bitcoin and 10K plus Ethereum. And so again, moving forward, instead of following kind of just arbitrary narratives and arbitrary price predictions, I'm going to listen to the market and listen to myself. Because guys, folks, when I fucking first started this channel like 2 years ago, like one of the biggest things I stuck to when I first started this channel was I was saying, because I was so interested in trying to time the top of this bull market to try and capitalize on as much of the bull run as possible. And one of the things I found, and I can even pull this up from many months ago to show you guys, I'm not just making this up now, is the 50-day simple moving average for Bitcoin. This little white line here, historically very relevant moving average for Bitcoin. It held as support during our parabolic uptrend. We retested it on a correction, held it as support, and then as soon as you lose either a moving average, a ribbon, a cloud, any kind of support level that you hold throughout a parabolic uptrend, that you test and hold during a correction, once you officially lose that, get daily candles, weeklies, opening, closing below that, the parabolic uptrend is over. And I fucking knew that, and I was preaching this. But it happened. We broke below. We had dailies, weeklies closing below it. And I held out hope because I during this time, I remember the narrative. Everyone and their mother was saying 250K Bitcoin. And I was like, guys, we're just at 60K here. There must be more upside, even though the market was clearly showing us, we're seeing bearish divergence on the daily RSI. We were breaking down from this moving average. And so I didn't follow my own advice. If you guys were around during the first days of the channel, like me, this is something me and Weston would debate during live streams. He would hold me to the fire. He's like, "Do you really believe this, man?" And even when we broke below this, he was like, "What now? Do you believe it's a bear market? The bull market's over?" And I remember I did not listen to myself. I didn't listen to the market. I held on to an arbitrary narrative instead of choosing to listen to the market. And I suffered greatly because of that. I held on to like the majority of this dip, and eventually I was able to make some money over here. But even still, I would have been far better off if I just listened to myself in the first place and sold once the market showed us we were seeing signs of weakness. So, folks, next bull cycle 2025, if we lose, get daily candles opening and closing below the 50-day SMA after a bullish retest during the bull market, fucking sell. Not financial advice. Anyways, I'm supposed to be reading comments. Jesus, you guys should like yell at me. T-Bird, what's up, man? He's saying RH going to be bragging so hard when Bitcoin hits 11K. I'm sure he will. Motley's saying, I'm excited to see how low ETH gets if we get those lower Bitcoin levels. I'm excited to not be paying insane levels, insane amounts for transactions on Ethereum right now. It's been real cheap to buy the Hex dip recently, which I'm thankful for. I was so tired of those $100 transactions. Now it's much cheaper. And how do I say this name? And Anna Maria is saying, I own 2 Bitcoin, sold my first Bitcoin at 56K and just bought Bitcoin 2 and got money left in my pocket. I'm holding. Good for you, Anna Maria. Have fun completely underperforming everything. Just kidding. Good for you. Just a taste of what's coming. Sup, everyone? El Salvador sweating bullets too. I'm kind of sweating here. It's kind of warm where I'm at. Rich is saying Motley investor, just staying calm, cool, collected. Hope you're welcome, bro. It's hard adhering to the signs the market is giving you during the euphoric state of the cycle. Yes, 100%. Yep, doing awesome. Got 2 workouts in. Relaxed by the pool. Yeah, man. Motley's chilling, aren't you, man? You're out. I don't want to say where you're at, but I've been following your Twitter and it looks gorgeous. Yeah. So, folks, look. Also, to continue on here. Look, we got to understand kind of the macro conditions as well. S&P 500 is doing complete dog shit. We still have a global conflict. We still have global supply chain issues. Until we start to see a bottoming out with a greater stock market, we're not going to see any macro bottoms with crypto here, folks. So look, while there is a case for 23K perhaps being a local bottom, I do think that kind of by how much we usually draw down and by how long bear markets typically last, and given the macro state of kind of the global economy and how interest rates are still being hiked up, there's still no quantitative easing. I think there's still a lot more pain in the market, folks. And so even though we've seen 80, 90, 95% corrections with a lot of altcoins, Kusama, Chainlink, you name it, I still think there's much further downside. And come late October, November, December, that's when I'd feel much more comfortable buying into this market, knowing that we're near a local bottom. But why don't we move on to Hex here, which is my favorite altcoin, my number 1 position. And folks, look, I have been dollar cost averaging my way into Hex here, but just understand that, look, Bitcoin's at 22K right now. If Bitcoin is falling to 15, 13, 11K, folks, like, even though I love Hex and I believe in it long term, and I think long term it's going to do fabulous, you got to understand that short term, we could fall quite a bit here. I've kind of been saying that I think 2.5 cents here could be some kind of major bottom, simply because 2.5 cents would be a 95% correction from all-time high. If you look at last cycle, ETH bottom at a 95% correction, so there's kind of a track record of 95% corrections from all-time high, kind of being a bottom. But look, we're pretty goddamn close to 2.5 right now. We're just over 3 cents, folks. So if Bitcoin's losing half its value, you best believe that's going to further spook the markets. It's going to further spook retail. It's going to further dry up retail buy pressure, which you best believe is going to short-term affect Hex. And so we could fall 2.5 cents. Past that, I could see support being at just under 1.5 cents. But ultimately understand, folks, that look, like I'm saying, we got potentially, couple months here of bear market. That's plenty of time for Hex to drop to 2.5 cents, 1.5 cents, and possibly even sub penny. And guys, look, I'm not trying to spread FUD here. I very much so believe in Hex long term. The same goddamn factors that led it to do a 10,000x in 2021 are the same goddamn factors that exist today. The only thing that has changed is market sentiment and the fact that we found our extreme over euphoric period. And whenever you find that extreme over euphoric period, well, you're gonna find the opposite, folks. Crypto is a market of extremes. We exist in one over euphoric extreme, and once you find that, guess what you got to find? You got to find the exact opposite, extreme depressive area, which is what we're in the midst of finding right now. So again, the support areas that I'm looking at for where I'll be buying Hex is 2.5 cents, 1.5 cents, and if we enter subpar cent, I'll definitely be buying as well. But just kind of the two next areas of support that I'm looking at for where I'll be dollar cost averaging is right here at about 2.5 cents and then 1.5 cents here as well, with the understanding that we could, of course, fall down further. But again, guys, look, if you're holding your Hex on not an exchange, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, you're going to get that double on PulseChain. And so something else I'd like to bring up here before I kind of change the topic to PulseChain is, I've been kind of fucking around with the idea of like, how do you do price predictions on something like Hex, right? And so, if we think about what Hex is, like sure, Hex is designed to mimic kind of a certificate deposit, kind of something similar to kind of like a bond market in the crypto space. But ultimately, Richard Hart's been saying, from what I'm hearing when he ever describes Hex, it's ultimately Bitcoin with a proof of work change, which is really what Hex is. It's a very fancy Bitcoin with a proof of work change. And so if we kind of look at how Bitcoin has behaved previously and its kind of price growth, I believe kind of the first cycle here with Bitcoin, we saw roughly what was like 50,000% ROI. Yeah, something like that. So roughly 50,000% ROI. All right. So that was the first cycle with Bitcoin. Now, what did we see second cycle? I believe it was like around 12,000% ROI. Yeah, around 12,000% ROI. So basically what we're seeing, folks, is that we're likely to see diminishing returns in all these assets moving forward. Same thing with X. We did the 10,000X this cycle. Come, next parabolic season 2025, we're also likely to see diminishing returns. And so, if Bitcoin, if Hex is essentially Bitcoin with a proof of work change, well, could the way Bitcoin is moving in the past give us some indication of the potential price performance Hex could see in its next cycle? Topping off 2025. So if we see that we had a diminishing return of essentially 1/5 of Bitcoin's price performance during the second bull run, because the first bull run we had 50,000% growth, second bull run around 12,000% growth. So just for easy math here, let's say the diminishing returns was 1/5. Okay, so what's if we kind of apply that same logic here with Hex, well, what would be 1/5 of a 10,000X for Hex? That would be a 2,000X. But the supply of Hex is going to be doubled on PulseChain. So then the potential price performance, I would cut that in half. So what I'm trying to get at here, and I'll probably turn this idea into a video where I kind of may make this point perhaps more coherently. I'm just kind of thinking it loud with you guys here. Is what I'm trying to get at is my Hex price prediction for blow off top late 2025, maybe it's 2026, who knows, is a 1,000X from wherever the all-time low for this bear market ends up being. So if the all-time low ends up being 2.5 cents, 1,000X from there. 1.5 cents, 1,000X. Sub penny, 1,000X from there. Because again, look, if we just kind of follow the logic here, if Hex is essentially just a better version of Bitcoin, and we see that Bitcoin did a 50,000% growth first cycle, 12,000% growth second cycle, that's essentially 1/5 of what we saw the first time around. So if we apply that same logic to Hex, we saw 10,000X. What's 1/5 of that? That's 2,000X. But the supply is doubling. So you cut that in half, 1,000X. So, folks, I think if Hex goes on to act anything like Bitcoin did during the past, that we could see a 1,000X from this bear market all-time low to the all-time high next cycle. That is my Hex price prediction for 2025, which is why, folks, even though, I was buying Hex really all throughout these levels here, I'm chilling because in my opinion, it's just a matter of time. It's literally just a matter of time before a couple of years from now, we reach all-time highs and enter price discovery once again. Now, something else. We got a piece of news here from Richard. Now, let me share this in a way where you guys can hear the audio. Give me 1 second here. There we go. All right, you guys should be able to hear this audio. Let me know if you cannot. This is Richard Hart giving us an update here on PulseChain.
As far as PulseChain goes, we're still waiting on devs to finish it. It's not ready yet. So we're still working on validator jailing and rotation and refactoring and moving things from inside the EVM to outside the EVM so they're a lot faster, so we don't fill up the blocks. So basically, let me explain this to you guys. The slowest part of Ethereum is the EVM. It limits all your throughput. And while the existing infrastructure we have now can do, 4x, 10x, 40x, depending on what settings we use for maximum gas, because the block times are 3 times faster, you can fill up all that space with internal mechanics that you need to keep everything working right. So people stake and they delegate, and those people that delegated need paid for those stakes. Well, then those transactions will suck up space from the blockchain. And you don't want to suck up all the space from the blockchain with internal overhead. So if you can shift a lot of the internal overhead outside of the EVM, then you can maintain your throughput and then have all of the, you know, like you don't want a denial of service vector to be delegating stake. And so there's this art of picking limits, picking maximums, picking which things are inside the EVM or not. And we're just optimizing those things. And to tell you the truth, in a terrible bear market, it's a great time to optimize those things anyway. So
see, folks, and at the end, he gave it away. So if I can maybe translate and summarize what we just heard there, this guy's timing the market. He's 100% timing the market. Look, guys, Richard's smart. And I even tweeted a clip of Richard talking about this in the past. Richard knows very well that it is optimal to launch near the bottom of the bear market because if you launch not at the bottom of the bear market and you go down, you have a bunch of technical resistance to get past next bull cycle. So it's much more easy on a coin if you launch at or near the bottom of the bear market, and Richard knows this. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure these guys are going to be tweaking and working on PulseChain, getting all these variables right. And it's going to all happen to line up perfectly at around, 15, 13K Bitcoin. So, folks, look, in my opinion, it's starting to look like we might see PulseChain, like I was saying, maybe late October, November, December this year. So it's unfortunate, but for those staking hex, we're still earning those hex every day. If you look at kind of the daily payout, we're seeing that it's about hovering around six hex per T share. So that's good to see. God damn it. Yeah, that's death for Ethereum. Look at that, folks. Yeah, and look, in terms of where I think Ethereum would go, look, it's ultimately going to track Bitcoin, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see, sub 800 Ethereum, from 620 to about 800 is when, I would kind of feel comfortable dollar cost averaging my way into this thing. But I do think that there's further downside here, folks, for sure. All right. Is there anything else I had on my mind? I'm sure there is. So what you guys are saying in the meanwhile. People keep looking for previous cycles, neglecting the fact that we did not have a recession and aggressive interest rate hikes from the Fed previously. Right. That's a good point. And this is the point that Messin likes to bring up in kind of discussing the importance or the relevance of defining crypto as cyclical or not. And look, in my opinion, these factors such as Fed rate hikes, recession, these are the things that bring variability and to the cycle. But in my opinion, there is still a macro cycle pattern, and just the way that pattern shapes out, whether it's a double top, a parabolic blow off top, is influenced by the macro market conditions. But ultimately, there is still a resemblance of a euphoric period followed by a depressive period that kind of rinses and repeats following the Bitcoin halving. And so, well, I do think the kind of macro global environment will influence the way those tops and bottoms are shaped. Ultimately, those tops and bottoms will move in accordance to the Bitcoin halvings moving forward. Aaron is saying, why you slam on Celsius and locked your food in their bio. And locked your food in there, bro. Don't get the reference. He's been trading Hex as the Burger King of crypto. Is there? I don't get these references. Since Hex is the Tesla of crypto with class and elegance. You have your funds in Celsius for real. No, okay. By the way, folks, look, I kind of shared most of what I had, got it off my chest, but I do want to share something kind of nice that our VIP Discord members shared with me the other day. There was two people who said, I had crypto stashed in Celsius, moved it all out for PulseX SAC. This subscription to Million of the Moon has just paid off at least 100x. And we had someone else saying, I also moved all my stash from Celsius to the PulseX SAC. So that's honestly really, really sweet of you guys. I really like hearing that because it makes me know that at least I helped at least two people there get out of this fucking disastrous protocol and into something that's not going to be one of the best performing assets in the history of humanity. But we're going to find out. So Crypto Wolf, what up, man? If you earlier in the live stream, he's saying hex price prediction. My hex price prediction, as I kind of discussed earlier, just to kind of summarize briefly for the new folks, people just tuning in. By the way, everyone like and subscribe, hit that bell icon to notify new uploads. Appreciate it. Share the live stream as well. Look, I think hex can do a 1000x from wherever this cycle bottom ends up being, because if we follow kind of the line of logic here that hex is very similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's first cycle was 50,000% growth, next cycle is 12,000%. The diminishing returns is about 1/5. If we apply that to hex here, we had 10,000x, 1/5 of that is 2,000x, but the supply is doubling with the launch of PulseChain, so cut that in half. Therefore, I think if we follow kind of the same diminishing returns that Bitcoin had from its first to second cycle, then I think hex would go from a 10,000x first cycle to a 1,000x second cycle, if we follow what Bitcoin did. Yeah, I can see a 1,000x from the low. Yeah, 100%. Again, guys, look, we'll see, right? Like, we'll see. The market will ultimately tell us what's up. So, look, folks, that's most of what I had that I want to get off my chest here. Just understand that I think there's more blood here in the markets, folks. I think this market is likely to bottom off late October, November, December this year, maybe at around 11 to 13K, in my opinion. I think there is a case to be made, although I'm not married to this idea, that 23K could be a local low here, given that we've touched the 200 weekly moving average, very historically relevant base of support for Bitcoin. We're now extremely oversold on the weekly RSI. Every time we've done that historically has been the cycle bottom. So I'm not saying we're guaranteed to do that this time, but it is a very interesting point. So I think there is a case to be made that this could be a local bottom. Now, if we start getting daily candles, a couple daily candles, even a weekly opening and closing below 22,000, then I'd kind of throw that idea into the trash. And in that case, 19K and then 15, 13, 11K seem likely. But for now, we are at a historically relevant point that does mark very interesting macro oversold areas. We're starting to hit certain markers that mark us being historically extremely oversold to the extent that it could be a local or cycle bottom. Now, because of kind of the time factors, because of the macro environment, because we haven't had kind of the massive drawdown that we've had in the past, we're only down 67% from all of our highs. Because of that, I'm kind of dubious of this kind of bottom signal truly being the macro cycle bottom, just because there's so many other factors, macro factors that are at play here, that I think it's a very large open question as to whether or not these historical bottom indicators are truly going to be relevant this time around. Bottom line, what I think this does tell us is that we've started to hit certain markers that define Bitcoin as being macro oversold, that over the long term, the more of these kind of macro signals we hit, the more confident you can be that we're closer and closer and closer to a cycle and local bottom. So, folks, hope you enjoyed that live stream. Make sure you like and subscribe. Guys, we're going to be having a panel show this Wednesday. Messin will be there as well. We'll be talking about PulseChain, what people think about the greater market, what we're investing in, all that good stuff. So make sure you stay tuned, like, and subscribe. If anyone has any final questions, anything you'd like us to take a look at, now's the time to do it. I see Bufo saying some over here. We're going to get a bounce leading up to the election in November. After that, people are going to cash out. And for the end of the year, gifts and taxes. And that's when we'll see the real final capitulation. Yeah, guys, look, if we have any kind of relief rally here, I would personally be moving into stable coins, not financial advice. Although, if we start to see any kind of major dip, any kind of macro capitulation near the end of this year, if that happens to coincide with quantitative easing, printing of more money, if that happens to coincide with an ending of the rate hikes with interest rates and loans, if that happens to coincide with global supply chains improving, then each one of these more bullish macro factors we have around the end of this year, the more confident you could be of a cycle bottom. But just understand, the folks, look, next Bitcoin halving is I think March 2024. Real true only down bear markets only last roughly a year, at least historically speaking. So anything past November, December, folks, at that point, it's if we move anything like we've moved similarly in the past, then we can expect to move macro sideways and slowly start turning up past the end of this year. So 2023, 2024, and 2025 are going to look bright, in my opinion. Folks, hope you enjoyed the live stream. Everyone like and subscribe, share, hit that bell icon to notify of new uploads. Until next time, take care, folks.